How you doing?
Hey, Dave. I just like you to know I have you ranked as the 7th best beat writer covering the Eagles today.
That hurts. There's a lot more quarterbacks than there are beat writers covering the Eagles.
I don't know.
It's a big group.
There's people. There's a lot of people.
I'd hope I'd rank higher than 7.
Well, that's what Chris Sims had. He has you 7.
Chris Sims probably have us lower after this. We are going to look at Chris Sims' rankings, his annual quarterback rankings. Jalen Hurts finally showed up in those, so we'll kind of figure out if he's in the right place or not. He is not. There's a little spoiler there. We also have a few other topics we want to get to today. Jordan Davis. We touched on him a little bit last week, but we really want to talk about what we expect from him in year 2. Running backs. We want to talk about them a little bit. It's one of the more fascinating parts of this team, how that's going to break down. And then with OTAs continuing this week, we'll talk about some of the things we want to see from them on Thursday. But let's start with the Chris Sims quarterback power rankings. He has Jalen Hurts at 7. Little low there. So he's been putting it out in chunks. And look, I think he has
chunks is a good word for it.
I think he has the right top 8.
Okay.
I think that's fair. And we don't know his top 4 yet.
Well, we know who they are.
We know who they are, unless he's really going to put Zach Wilson up there.
Anywhere in top 40.
So basically, from the top 10 down, he went Matt Stafford at 10, Deshaun Watson at 9, Aaron Rodgers at 8, Jalen Hurts at 7, Trevor Lawrence at 6, Lamar Jackson at 5, and then the 4 names we haven't heard yet are Mahomes, Burrow, Allen, and Herbert in some order in the top 4. I think we're in agreement. 7's just too low for Hurts.
Yeah, and I think even the most diehard Eagles fan will give you Mahomes at 1.
Yeah.
I think Burrow and Allen and Jalen are that next group. And, I mean, Lamar Jackson, it's Trevor Lawrence. I think, and it starts with the fact that I think – but the Lamar Jackson thing kind of ruins my theory that he just kind of trends toward pocket passers, because that's what he was. That's what his dad was, guys who just are statues and stand out there and don't run and are one-dimensional old-time 80s pocket passers. But then he's got Lamar Jackson, number 5, which I don't know how you justify that when – I mean, he's had all kinds of injuries and all kinds of postseason disappointments. He's only won 1 playoff game. He did not play well. He did not throw a touchdown, threw a pick. So I don't really get 7. I think the lowest you can reasonably – and look, I think he's got to be ahead of Herbert too. I think he has to be ahead of Trevor Lawrence. I don't know how. So I think at the very worst, he should be 5th, at the very lowest.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's hard to argue him below, for me at least, it'd be hard to argue him below Lamar or Trevor Lawrence because, Lamar has done it, but he's played 12 games in each of the last 2 years. Injuries, they matter. And then you have Trevor Lawrence, who, he's on the right path, sure, but he hasn't done enough yet to – and even if you're like Jalen Hurts has 1 year, well, Trevor Lawrence hasn't had that year yet. So I don't understand how he can be above him. I guess maybe that's a projection thing with Lawrence, but I don't know how you have him there right now. And I agree with you. He should be above Herbert, but I think you're right. 5th is like the absolute floor for Hurts.
Yeah. How would you rank? Should we just rank the top 10? I haven't prepared anything, but.
Sure. I haven't. I think the top 8 are right. Like the 9th and 10th spots are kind of wacky because you're in then you're in like this group of, like, to me, it would be like Kirk Cousins, Tua, Dak.
Mm-hmm.
Like
he's, before we get into that, there's some like Jared Goff. I'm not a huge Jared Goff fan, but 17th is too low for him. Daniel Jones at number 11. I just don't know what that's based on, other than the fact that he's a Giants quarterback and maybe he's trying to make his dad happy. Dak did not have a great year, through 20 picks last year, but 13's too low for him.
Yeah, Dak's tricky. He's around that 9, 10, 11 area.
Yeah.
So many picks last year. He has Tua way too low. He has Tua at 21st.
I think he has Derek Carr too low too at 18.
I think Tua is the biggest.
I think he has Tannehill too high at 16.
I agree with that. I think Tua is the biggest miss on this list. He can't be 21st.
Yeah.
Look, I understand the concussions are a serious concern with him, but I mean, he played really well last year. I know he missed games, but 21st? You have him in the same category as Jimmy Garoppolo, Baker Mayfield, and Justin Fields, who Justin Fields is, he could take a big jump next year. But, like, you have Tua and Jimmy Garoppolo in the same category?
Yeah.
And Baker Mayfield?
Yeah. Yeah.
Tua to me is borderline top 10.
I'd love to see, has he, like, explained what his criteria is?
I mean, I mean, it's all on his podcast. He goes through it.
Yeah, I haven't listened to that. I'm sorry, Chris. Yeah. And Chris is a good guy, and we've had him on the pod, and but I just don't get this. I never have. I'm just looking at Matt Stafford's numbers last year. They were 3-6. He had 10 touchdowns, 8 interceptions, and he's number 10. Like, so, yeah, if you're basing it on career accomplishments, I mean, Stafford had a good career, had some real high points, won Pro Bowl in 14 years, but he's not a top 10 quarterback.
I don't know what his health situation is. If he's healthy, he is, but that's a big if with him.
Yeah, he's also 35 and doesn't seem to be trending the right way. Led the league in interceptions the year before.
Yeah, the problem is that team is a train wreck.
Yeah.
So, you want me to go through my top 10?
Yeah.
I'd have Mahomes, Burrow, Hurts, Allen, Herbert, Rodgers, Lawrence, Lamar, Cousins, Tua.
You'd have Cousins 9th.
Yeah, it's tricky because like he is what like the 9-10 spots to me are up for grabs. I could argue Dak there.
I'd put Dak in there
ahead of Kirk.
Yeah,
and that's fine.
I mean, neither one of them's a real big time postseason guy.
Yeah, I mean, Kirk puts up numbers every year.
Yeah,
that are hard to ignore.
Yeah,
I think 4,400 yards last year. Like he puts up numbers
every year.
Yeah,
and then what?
Yeah, but I mean, it's not all about postseason.
No, but like a good chunk of it should be. I don't know what Deshaun Watson's another guy. I don't know exactly what to do with.
Yeah, I don't know what to do with him either.
He wouldn't be in my top 10.
It's hard to put him in the top 10 right now. Obviously, he has the potential to be there. He has potential to be higher than that, but he didn't play well in a small sample size last year, and he hasn't played well now for a few years because he didn't play. Talented, but yeah, I wouldn't have him top 10.
So I'd go Mahomes, Burrow, Jalen, Josh Allen, my top 4 in that order.
So we're in agreement with the top 4.
Yeah,
and probably the top 5.
Who's your 5th?
Herbert,
yeah. And then I'd probably go Trevor Lawrence next, and then Rodgers, and then Lamar.
We're very similar.
You had Lamar.
The top 8. I had Lamar at 8 just because he's played 12 games in each of the last 2 years.
Yeah. 9 and 10, I wouldn't have Watson or Stafford in there. I'd have Kirk. I'd probably have Dak 9th. Jared Goff, I keep coming back to him. He had a really, really good season last year. I know they chuck the ball all the time. It's probably why DeAndre Swift isn't there anymore. No, but he might be in my top 10. Honestly, I think you can make a case for Cousins, for Dak, for Geno. Geno was really good. Even Derek Carr, but probably not Carr. I'd probably go Dak and Jared Goff at 9 and 10.
No, Tua.
Tua would be in the
mix
in the next group with Cousins. With Cousins and Carr and Geno. The next 4 would probably be Cousins, Carr, Geno, and Tua in some order.
Okay.
Yeah. I think you have to take into account the concussions somehow.
Yeah, it's tricky.
It is. And that's the tough part about this. Like Brock Purdy, what do you do with Brock Purdy?
He has been 26.
I think that's probably a little low, but I get it. I mean, he's only
Sam Darnold right behind him at 27.
Yeah, Tua's numbers were incredible last year when he played. I mean, his passer rating led the league, right? 105.5. I think he passed Jalen late in the year.
Yeah. Like to have him below Mac Jones, I mean,
that's
what are we doing?
Yeah, behind 5 spots behind Ryan Tannehill.
I don't understand that.
Yeah,
at least he got the top 8.
Yeah,
right in that he has the right 8. I don't really understand the Hurts thing. He was the MVP runner up. And are you docking him points because he has a good team around him? Maybe that's what he's doing. I
saw the one quote from him. He said he misses passes, unlike these other guys who complete all their passes.
Yeah, that's and look, I don't think like his criticisms of Hurts are necessarily wrong, but I don't know if they're lining up the way they do with the other quarterbacks.
I mean, Hurts completed.
I don't think he hates Jalen Hurts. I just think he's clinging to his initial evaluations of him because they were low. I mean, 2 years ago, we didn't have him in the top 40. Last year, he had him at 25. So, like, maybe he's like, I moved him up all the way to 7, but, it's still too low.
I mean, he misses passes. Josh Allen completed 63% of his passes last year. And Jalen was 66. Yeah. Lamar Jackson's never completed 66.5% of his passes in any season. I mean, that's a really high number. You complete 2/3 of your passes. I don't know what he was ranked, but it was top 5 or 6.
Mm-hmm.
He misses passes. I think part of it is he's kind of established a beachhead on this, and this is just gonna be his thing. It's just like he's always gonna have him too low. It's just it brings him a lot of attention, brings him a lot of notoriety. People click on his list, I'm sure a lot more because of the whole Hurts thing.
There's nothing to click. It's a podcast.
Well, there's Mulhern printed out, so it had to be somewhere that he clicked.
A tweet.
But yeah, okay, a tweet. But
a non-monetized tweet.
It's good for the brand, and he's kind of made it clear this is his thing. This is going to be his thing, and he's going to stick with it.
Yeah.
Because there's no justification.
Yeah, it's tough to stack them up, and especially Lawrence and Lamar. Like, you can make a case for the other 4, certainly.
Yeah.
Like, Mahomes, no one's going to argue with you. Burrow, I don't think we'll get much of an argument. Allen, look, you want to put Allen above him? I get it. Herbert is where we start getting a little tricky.
Right.
And I like Herbert. I'm higher on Herbert than most. I had Herbert above Burrow for probably too long just because I like the skills so much. But, yeah.
Let me ask you this. Out of all the 40 guys on this list, who do you think is going to make the biggest jump up next year and the biggest drop down on Chris's list next year?
Jump up, I would take. Oh man, some of those rookies are so low.
Yeah,
I'd still go Justin Fields.
Yeah,
from 23, even if he just moves up to.
I could see him being in the top 12. The way he played the second half.
Sure. Of the year. Yeah, I think he could be ready for a big jump. And also, like, the rookies are so low.
Yeah.
Like, Anthony Richardson probably won't start right away, or even if he does, like, he might not be great right away, but he's so talented, and that team is decent.
Yeah.
I trust Shane Steichen with him.
They're well coached.
So I think he can make a jump. The biggest drop. How about you, biggest jump? Sorry.
Biggest jump. Fields is a good one. I'm going to say Brock Purdy.
Who's at 26.
He's at 26. I could see him. I mean, I don't really know how good he is. I don't think anyone does, but just based on small sample size, the way he played when he did play before he got hurt, the poor Eagles went after our quarterback. I could see him being a top, in that 10 to 15.
How about the drop?
Jalen, he'll probably have Jalen 36. Biggest drop. I'm gonna say Deshaun Watson.
Really?
I have a feeling it's not going to go well for him.
Wow.
Yeah. I can see Russell Wilson. I mean, he's 14. I can see Ryan Tannehill plunging on this list.
Stafford, if he's not healthy.
Yeah.
And that team is so bad.
Yeah.
Stafford from 10.
Sam Howell could drop from 39 to 40.
I mean, he would drop off the list.
Minshew plays well. He could jump. He's at 34. But
what do you think? No Mariota on this?
Yeah, I guess. I mean, there's not enough spots to have every backup. But I mean, he's a top 5 backup.
Started games.
Played well last year.
I thought he played better last year. Obviously, had more opportunity, but than Gardner did in his 2 games.
Yeah. A little surprised, but I mean, you can't put everyone on. He wanted to put the bigger names on. Mariota, I guess, isn't a bigger name anymore. But yeah, I'll go Watson dropping and Purdy rising.
Okay, I like that.
Yeah.
Move on from the Sims list.
Yeah,
I like Chris, by the way.
Yeah, we both do.
I don't want to make it seem like I don't like him.
Not
I just
personal.
disagree with him.
Yeah.
Jordan Davis. We talked to him last week. I don't think we really broke down much of what he said, but I came away so impressed by him.
Yeah.
Just the maturity of him realizing that he's not a rookie anymore. And now, like, he even talked about wanting the other rookies coming in to follow his example. That's really impressive for a guy who, like, right or wrong, there were like questions. Is he going to be conditioned last year? Is he going to take it as seriously as he needs to? The fact that he's like openly talking about, I want to set an example for these guys, to me, is really encouraging.
Yeah, and now it's one thing to say, it's another thing to put yourself in the position where you're doing it. But I liked what I heard from him. I liked how he said, I'm paraphrasing. I think you might have tweeted out the exact quote in with your story, something like, I understand what the expectations are, that the expectations are greater than they were, and I want to live up to that, something like that. He knows. I mean, he knows exactly the situation. He's a first-round pick. He wasn't bad last year.
No.
He was not bad last year. I was just looking at Pro Football Focus, and the disclaimer, it's a way of measuring guys. It's not the way. But, I mean, they had him as the 26th highest interior lineman among guys who played at least 100 snaps, and there were like 129 of them. So he was solid. I think he plays a position where he's not gonna generate highlight films. You know, he's not gonna be that kind of player. He's a guy who's gonna do the dirty work and get in there and grind. And I think he did a really good job of that. And before he got hurt.
Yeah, you're right. Like, the Pro Football Focus is obviously not a perfect way to judge any player. But with him, like, maybe it's a little helpful because aside from just like watching him and thinking, okay, he's playing well, like there's no stats. There are stats, of course, but like the stats are never probably going to blow you away with him. But he has impact on the game, and you see him like eat double teams, and you see him, even if he's not making the tackle in the run game, he's affecting the run game quite a bit. So like those things matter. I remember when they drafted him, it was like, that was a big question. Like, he has to have pass rush upside to be worthy of that pick. But like the one guy who kept coming up when I'd hear about it was Vita Vea. So if he's Vita Vea, like, of course he's worth it. And like Vita Vea is never going to have great numbers, but he's a monster and he changes the game. And if Jordan Davis can do that, I think he still can. There were some encouraging signs from his rookie year, and I think the injury just really hurt him, but I'm still pretty bullish on him.
Yeah, me too. I think we agree on this. I like his attitude. I like his work ethic. I like how much he wants it. He's definitely got the hunger. He's an interesting guy. I wonder if sometimes he comes off almost like too thoughtful. Like some of those guys, a lot of people are skeptical. Like it's almost like they talk too much. Like they're trying to convince themselves of something. You see people turn on guys that talk just too wordy. And but
I don't necessarily think that was him last year, though.
No, I don't either. I just wonder if that was part of the perception of. I mean, a lot of fans thought he was awful last year, which I don't know where that came from. I get that a lot.
Is that right?
Yeah. I got that a lot on social media and from people I just run into, what's wrong with this? Is he going to be any good? I mean, I don't really know where that came from. I thought he was good in the postseason. I thought how much
by the end of the year he was out snapping Linval, who was the starter. And look, they brought in Linval and they got him off the street. So Jordan lost his starting gig, but by the end of the year, like their snaps were even, and then Jordan even started out snapping him.
Yeah. Yeah. I thought maybe the first few weeks back after the injury, first couple of weeks, he was clearly not 100%.
Well, it kept pulling on him.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm excited for him. I'm excited to see, what steps he takes, what strides he takes. I think they're onto something with him.
I do too. And he's a part of a unit. And that's the thing that's going to be so important to remember is like sometimes Jalen Carter's success will be because of Jordan Davis, and he's not going to get the shine all the time. But we'll try to do that. Like if we notice that Jordan's playing really well and other guys are cleaning up, we'll point it out because that's worth mentioning.
He'll point it out too. And I'm sure Jalen Carter will as well. He's gonna.
Yeah. I think that they understand how to, and that's going to be fun to watch too. Just those two playing off each other. And Carter, we saw it in college a lot. He's obviously a freak, but reap the benefits a little bit.
Yeah, no doubt. That defensive interior, I mean, with a guy we were talking about on Huddle last night, Milton Williams, Fletch, assuming Fletch can still crank out 25 snaps a game at a good level, they're gonna do some damage in there.
I would think he was above that last year, wasn't he?
25? Yeah, he was.
I mean, I don't know if we're going to see him
drop that much.
Yeah.
What did he average last year? Let's see. Yeah, you might be right. I mean, I guess.
I mean, that might be ideal at this stage in his career, but I don't think that's going to happen. I think they're still going to play him quite a bit.
He played 7, 13, and 17 games. So he averaged 41. I think that's too high.
I still think he's going to play quite a bit. Because even if it's a 1-for-1 swap, Carter for Hargrave, you're probably not going to play Carter as much as Hargrave, are you?
9th pick.
Yeah.
I think 30 snaps a game.
And you lost some depth there because you don't have Sue or Linval.
Yeah. Hargrave averaged how many snaps per game? He was right around there. Right around the same number.
That's Fletch, yeah.
So he was right exactly 41.8. Fletch was 41.2. Interesting. As you think of Hargrave, I mean, he had a really good year. But Fletch did too. Fletch was fine.
Yeah.
But I guess part of it is just Fletch's age, although he's not even that much older than Hargrave.
Yeah, a lot more.
He's played a lot. But Hargrave's played a lot. I mean, Hargrave never misses games. I think he missed one game in Pittsburgh. Yeah, he missed one game in his career in Pittsburgh. He only missed one here. So, yeah, they both played a lot of snaps. He didn't play. He was only playing like half the snaps with the Steelers. But it's interesting because the perception of Fletcher is that he's this like old declining guy. And he did decline from like, I think from 20 to 21. And the perception of Hargrave is that he's like this, this stud. I mean, the difference was 3.5 sacks. 3.5 sacks.
Mm-hmm.
And about the same number of snaps. Interesting. I hadn't looked at it that way, so it's good to break it down. Fletch is an interesting guy. If he can play just like he did last year, same production, same number of snaps, it's a huge win for this defense.
Yeah, and I think they're going to ask him to do around the same in terms of play percentage.
Interesting. I'm still surprised he's back. I did not think he would be back.
It makes sense, though.
It makes sense.
It does, and it at a cheaper price than what he was the year previous after a decent year, which tells you they overpaid in 22. But
yeah, they knew that.
Yeah, they knew it. You're right. But I think it's a more reasonable salary this year.
That was the third most sacks he's ever had last year.
Mm-hmm.
I have to rethink how I look at Fletcher Cox.
He's also reached the Jason Peters victim of his own success a little bit.
That's a good point.
Because he's no longer the 2018 All-Pro version, but he's still pretty good. And like I think that happens sometimes. We saw like Peters is the best example of it. Because he was so good for so long, and then when he declined, it was like, man, he stinks. And you're like, no, like look around the league, look at some tackle play around the league.
Still top 10.
Yeah, he doesn't stink. He's just not what he once was. And I think that's kind of the same with Fletch. Like even if he's average to above average, like that's fine. Like every player is not going to be an All-Pro.
Yeah.
Good
All right. Stuff.
I have another fun little thing here.
What do you got?
Running back touches.
Oh yeah, I got some numbers here.
Okay, good. I have a little bit in front of me as well. To me, it's one of the more fascinating things about this team is how the running back touches are going to get broken up throughout the year. And I think we'll get a better sense of it in training camp because you have really the four guys are DeAndre Swift, Rashad Penny, Kenny Gainwell, and Boston Scott.
Sorry, Trey Sermon fans.
Yeah.
Let me run through last year. So last year,
Sure.
The Eagles had 368 rushing attempts from the running backs, which is it's low, 21.6 per game.
Mm-hmm.
That was one of the lowest in the league. Miles had 259. Gainwell only had 53. This is regular season.
Yeah.
And he had another 30 in the postseason. Boston and Gainwell, 54 and 53. And then Trey Sermon had 2. So go ahead.
So I broke it up in the touches. So 416 total touches for the running backs. Sanders had 67% of them. It's a pretty high number.
Yeah, I don't think anyone will have 67%.
Yeah, so then it leads us to, all right, well, if you're breaking it down into percentages, who's the top guy?
So here's what I did.
Yeah.
I gave him 20 more carries than last year. And I didn't do touches, I did carries, but just add a few catches for each guy. Add 40 for Swift. I think he catches 40, 45 balls. But I think ideally Jalen won't run as much. I think ideally, and maybe this is just me projecting, but I think if Jalen has 20 fewer carries and these guys, you have this kind of depth, give them 20 more carries. So I worked with the number 388 total carries. Here's what I came up with. I gave Swift 172, which is about 11.5 per game. The most he ever had was in 2021. He had 11.5 per game. I gave Gainwell 114, which is about 6.5 per game. And I have Swift playing 15 games, so I factored in number of games.
Okay.
And then I have Penny at 8 per game over 10 games, so 80. I just think his history, you can't count on him for 17, but maybe you can play 10 games, give him eight carries. He's not a big receiver, so 8 touches. And then Boston is going to be the odd man out if the other guys are healthy, and I have him at just like half of last year, about 20, 25 carries.
Okay. I like that we did this in completely different ways.
I know.
That do not match up at all.
I know. Well, receiving, I think
We kind of get it, though. I think we're in kind of a similar boat.
I'm going to give Swift 45 catches.
Yeah, so that was the thing. Like I have
Gainwell,
Swift's percentage of
22
touches much higher because I think he's going to catch the ball a lot more.
Yeah.
You want to hear my breakdown?
Yeah, well, I'm going to give Swift 45 catches, Gainwell 22, Penny 6, and Boston Scott 11. That's a lot of catches.
Yeah, that's a lot of catches. How'd you end up with between Gainwell and Penny?
As far as
touches,
I have Gainwell with 136 and Penny with 86.
Okay, yeah, I was similar. So I broke it down into percentage points. So I went Swift with 45, which is probably too high.
Well, out of how many snaps here? Because now I'm saying 67, 78, 84 plus 388 is 472. So I have Swift. Do some quick math here. This is really interesting to listen to, isn't it? 172 plus
like some algebra here
divided by 4. So I have Swift at 46%.
After all that, we came out really close. I'm at 45%.
There you go.
What if we really land on this? This would be pretty cool. This is like live math. This is exciting.
It's a new name of our podcast, Live Math.
Yeah.
And so what do you have for Gainwell?
25.
I have 27.
Holy cow. I have Penny at 20. I'm probably a little higher than you.
Yeah, I have 18.
And I have Boston at 10.
So I'll be a little lower. Yeah, I'm at 7. But
yeah.
we're in.
That's pretty darn close.
Yeah.
Show your math, though. Did you show all the math to get full credit? You got it all?
It's
That's
right
good.
Here. Yeah.
I used to hate that in school.
Yeah.
Like sometimes I didn't want to write it all out, and then I'd get marked off because.
But it's like the dumbest thing. Show your work. Like, why? If I get it right, who cares? So remember we used to do word problems. Did you get like word problems? Like,
let's not go we.
you didn't have word problems.
Yeah, I mean I did. What do you mean? Like Johnny buys 12 oranges.
Yeah. If train number 1 is traveling, that's probably a bad example this week. But if a bus is going 100 miles an hour this way and another one's going 50 miles an hour this way, that's a really fast bus, by the way. And they leave at the same time, and it's this many miles. Then in what town are they going to cross paths?
Yeah.
Well, I would you would use math to do that, but I would just figure it out in my head. Well, it'll be right around here. And then I would check it. I'd use math to check what I came up with. So I had totally weird, incorrect way of coming up, but I would come up with the right answer, and they would flunk me on it because I didn't do it the right way. Well, as long as you can find a solution that works, who cares?
Seen the new math?
What's that?
The new math, they call it. It's basically just show your work and do it a weird way. When my nieces were going through elementary school, they'd show me. I was like, I can figure this out, but you had to do it very in a roundabout way. It made no sense to me.
Yeah. All right. Now that we've ripped the education system.
Well, sometimes you gotta rip the education system.
But I think we're on definitely in the same ballpark here, where we both kind of think Swift is going to get about half, just under half the touches, and Gainwell is going to get about a third, just under a third, and then see what's left over for Penny. I just think you can't count on him. You can't even try to give him. You can't look at that rushing average and get greedy.
It's be tempting.
Yeah, it would be. But I don't think they'll do that.
The weird thing with him is in his career, he's missed games. And what he's played, he's got a decent share of the workload.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's we're averaging it out thinking he's going to play X amount of snaps. It might not be like that. It might just average out to these numbers at the end of the year.
Right. That's what I was thinking. It's funny because if he gets a carry, say Swift plays the first series, and then bring in Penny for the second series. And his first carry, he gets 19 yards. And the second carry, he gets 6 yards. Then he gets 12 yards. And he's not going to get 8 carries in that game. Mm-hmm. Just Brian Johnson's going to be just keep feeding him the ball. But that's when you risk getting him hurt. So it's a tricky balance. It's a fine line, as somebody used to say. Carson Wentz used to say that all the time.
Catch all the sports action more. Rivers Casino, Philadelphia. Whether it's the money line or the pass line, there's something for everyone in a great sports book. Rivers Casino, Philadelphia. Philly loves a winner. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. All right, Rube. Let's look through some of the depth on this team. We'll go position by position and look at the backups and try to gauge where our comfort level is if these guys have to play either a game or extended time during the season. And we'll start with quarterback, the most obvious one, Mariota. I think you feel about as good as you could with a backup. Now, obviously, it's still going to be a huge drop-off from a guy who might be playing at an MVP level again. But looking around at the options teams have, I think you feel okay with Mariota.
Yeah, and I thought for the most part, Minshew was fine. Even the Dallas game, I don't put that on him. He was fine in that game. So
he played one good game, one bad game in his 2 starts. And they unfortunately didn't win either of them.
Right. And then he played well against the Giants or the Jets the year before. Mm-hmm. But I feel a little better about Mariota. I think he's just a little bit better, one level up from him. And the fact that he started games and played at high levels just last year, I like that.
Yeah. Now, the only thing with Mariota is he has had an injury history. So as much as I like the idea of having a quarterback with a similar skill set in that he can kind of keep the offense the same, then you're exposing Mariota to hits potentially, and you're exposing him to getting hurt. And then how do you feel about Tanner McKee or Ian Book?
Who's going to be 3?
McKee, I think.
Tanner McKee?
Yeah.
Did you grade him on the Thursday?
Looked all right.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, if you have to worry about your third quarterback, then it's like, you have other problems. But I like the player. He has been banged up, but hopefully he doesn't have to play. He doesn't have to play meaningful games.
Mm-hmm.
We like to see Jalen not get hurt.
Well, yeah.
I mean, I think it would be important for his career to not miss those 2 games late in the season like he has the last 2 years.
It'd be nice. That's something that is real. He's been hurt in back-to-back December. So, yeah.
And I don't think he was ever 100% either year. I think we made more of a big deal about it 2 years ago than last year, but he was not healthy last year.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Running back, we'll skip. There's not really
we just kind of
backup
broke
there.
it down.
Yeah. Tight end.
Yeah.
This is a concerning one to me.
Yeah. I wish they were better.
Yeah. You have Dallas Goedert, one of the best tight ends in the league. And then might be the biggest jump from starter to backup on this roster.
Maybe right tackle. It's a pretty big drop.
Yes, a pretty big drop. Yeah.
But yeah, it's and I think Stoll, for what he's asked to do, he's asked to come in and be physical and block, maybe catch a few balls.
I don't know if it's as big a drop. Lane's great, but at least Jack Driscoll's played games.
Yeah.
You can hide your tight end easier than your right tackle. It's a more important position, right tackle. But
yeah, well, I'll go right tackle, but I know what you're saying. But Stoll and Calcaterra are both limited. They're never going to be starters. Calcaterra's got nice hands. He can run. Stoll's a good blocker, but and then there's, Tyree Jackson's still here. Dan Arnold's here. He's caught some passes, but won't give you anything on the line of scrimmage. Dalton Keene is here. There's just a bunch of guys.
Brady Russell, undrafted out of Colorado.
Brady Russell is here. Also, I thought it was Russell Brady. I almost called him Russell Brady. None of these guys is, maybe one of them will separate. Maybe one of them will separate from the pack, but it's not a super encouraging group.
Yeah. And the problem is the offense changes without Dallas Goedert. And look, we know that no matter who the tight end 2 is he's probably not going to be as good as Dallas Goedert, but the offense changes significantly without Goedert.
No doubt.
And similar receiver too. And we'll go there now. Devontae and AJ are 2 of the best in the league, maybe the best duo in the league. They're in the conversation, certainly. After that, Quez, Watkins, Olamide Zaccheaus, and Britton Covey are probably the 3 other receivers on this roster.
You always count out Greg Ward, but he's always here. He was on the 53 for the Super Bowl, I think. But yeah, I think and Zaccheaus is maybe a little more reliable than Quez at this point. We haven't seen him, but just his history. But it's not Zaccheaus is fine. He's okay. Quez, when he's not goofing up, is a nice player, but it's certainly a big drop from 1 and 2 to 3 and 4 and 5. And there's other guys here, Jaden Hazelwood, Devon Allen is a guy that he's really intriguing. I know you give me a hard time because he's a track guy, but I would think they would love to see him kind of take a step. I don't know what that would mean. I don't know if that would be enough to put him on the 53, but he's got the speed. Saw in Cleveland that ability to track a ball in a preseason game. Tyree Cleveland's played some in the NFL. Charleston Rambo, Joseph Nagata. So there's a lot of people. You need legs in training camp, but really it's 2 guys, then a big drop, then 2 other guys, then a big drop.
Yeah, they'd be in trouble if they lose one of those receivers for an extended period. Offensive line. First, let's figure out who the backups are.
Yeah,
backup center's easy. Scam Jorgens. Backup right guard, Tyler Steen. Backup right tackle, Jack Driscoll.
Although, if they need to move Cam to Oh, you go ahead. I'm sorry. We say right guard. You saying right guard, Jack Driscoll?
Right tackle,
right tackle. Yeah.
Right guard is probably Steen, and if you have to move Jurgens, you then just plug him.
Yeah.
Wouldn't really change anything.
What about left tackle?
I don't know.
It would probably, I would think it'd be Driscoll at this point.
Driscoll or Steen?
Maybe Steen. I don't know if you want to give him tackle and
guard at the same time, both sides of the line. Eventually, maybe.
Yeah, that's a lot to start out with. Brett Toth has been around a long time. I don't really know.
Tackle guard, probably more of a natural tackle. But,
Roderick Johnson's huge.
Yeah, they have Fred Johnson, Roderick Johnson. Those guys are, they're both big. They've been around for a little bit, but they're probably not going to be on the roster.
Yeah. Toth could be.
I think Toth. Yeah, Toth. I'm not including Toth in the Johnsons.
Yeah.
Those Johnsons. The other one will probably stick around.
Yeah. I would guess Driscoll would be the guy they would go to.
Driscoll could be a backup pretty much all but center.
Yeah. He can play center.
I don't know if he can.
He has. He did in college, right?
No. He, after, during the pre-draft process, he started, fooling around with it a little bit.
Yeah.
But he's never played there.
All right. They're in decent shape at most of those spots, but, yeah, certainly.
Better than most teams.
Yeah.
Still.
Yeah.
And we didn't, I don't know if we mentioned Sua, but Sua as a backup guard, you could do a lot worse.
Yeah.
And they have. Jamal Brown.
Oh, God. That was the worst game I've ever seen a guard play.
It's really hard to get noticed that much.
And then they brought him back.
Guard. Yeah.
What was that?
Didn't go well. Remember when he stopped to put his glove back on?
Yeah, he did. Jamal Brown.
That's offense. Move the defense real quick.
And it's a little different.
Yeah, defensive line, I'm not even going to bother with.
Yeah, they're going to rotate everyone. Yeah.
Linebacker is, I worry about the starters first and then move to the backups. Or, maybe you feel good about it because there might not be as big a drop off.
That's true. Davion's still here. He was a 3. Sean Bradley, who didn't play any defense at all last year. We talked about Christian Ellis, who
might be something there.
What do you think of Davion? Have you completely given up on him?
I haven't. Because a couple of years ago when he was out there, I thought he was getting better every week. And the problem for him is he's on a good team. He's really a guy who should go and start on a bad team somewhere and get those snaps. But you can't do that here. And then last year, obviously, when they brought in Kaiser, they weren't going to give him that opportunity. And they drafted Nakobe. So I'm not completely out on Davion, but he just needs on-field time, and there's no way to get it.
Yeah. Yeah, he'll be hard-pressed to get reps. But he's got something. He's just got that athleticism. Can run sideline to sideline. My
old joke with him, fastest guy to the wrong spot they have. But he was getting better, and he was the instincts were growing, and he was figuring it out.
Yeah.
And I just think he needs on-field time.
Sean Bradley, pretty much special teamer.
I always wanted to, a few years ago when they had just nothing at the position, I wanted to see them play him, and they never did. Yeah. So, at this point, probably.
Yeah. And then, of course, there's Ben Van Sumeren.
Ben Van Sumeren, yeah. Michigan kid. Well, Michigan State, he played at both. But he's fast. He's athletic.
Just doesn't know what he's doing.
Yeah, he was an offensive player early in his career. He flipped over in college, kind of like Davion, really, a really athletic kid who probably just needs to be on the field, but he, not going to get that shot.
Yeah.
Move to secondary.
Yeah,
we'll split them up. How about cornerback, outside cornerback?
Yeah, I think it'll be fun to watch Keely Ringo and Zach McPherson. And
Greedy Williams.
And they really seem to like Josh Jobe.
Yeah.
Who's an Alabama guy, which, usually the Alabama guys are on offense and the Georgia guys are on defense. But Jobe's been around, and, you can tell by how, the other players talk about guys, some of these guys who we don't see play. They're always like Slay's always mentioning, Bradbury's always mentioning Job.
Yeah.
They think highly of him, which is good. And then Eli Ricks at one point was a pretty high projected draft pick.
Yeah. And Mekhi Gardner, I mean, not a throwaway undrafted kid either. So the battle for that last spot or two at outside corner is going to be really fun this summer. There's maybe one or probably one spot between a few of those players.
And Mario Goodrich is still here.
Yeah.
Yeah, they got a bunch of guys. We'll see how it all shakes out. I'm thinking Keely Ringo
your top outside corner
might be the top outside guy by the time.
If Greedy's still here, it's probably Greedy. What do you make of the move for McPherson? We saw at the last OTA him playing in the slot.
I think it's a good sign.
I think it is a good sign.
Yeah. I don't.
Really?
Yeah.
I think he's going to be on this team, and I think he's going to be the top backup nickel. He might not be the top backup outside cornerback anymore, but I think he still has a spot on the team.
We'll see. It makes you – I mean, then why did they work him in the slot before?
Because they needed him outside.
Yeah, I mean –
all these guys we're talking about as the outside corners, Greedy and Keely Ringo weren't here.
Yeah, but –
so you boosted your depth outside, and now you're like, well, our depth inside kind of stinks. We have Josiah Scott, who –
But, I mean, Zach McPherson is allowed to take reps both inside and outside. And if Avante's hurt and you have no thought about playing Zach McPherson inside and you have Josiah Scott in there.
Yeah, I guess maybe
now all of a sudden
maybe they didn't want to. Maybe they were disappointed in Josiah. They thought Josiah was going to be better.
Maybe,
and then you haven't given reps to Zach McPherson this whole time as a nickel. You're not probably going to do it on the fly.
It just seems to me if they believed he could handle it the way they are saying they do now, then
they haven't said anything really.
Well,
a little bit.
Sean Desai talked him up as a slot.
DK did.
My bad. Yeah, DK did. I mean, look, you could be right. My hunch is McPherson won't be here, and Keely will be the top outside guy, and who the backup slot is. I can't answer that. I just don't think it'll be Zach McPherson.
I mean, you got to answer it. Well, if it's not him, then is it Josiah? Is he back?
I mean, maybe, but I would have to. It might be someone who's not on the roster. Maybe one of these young guys who makes the team as a special teamer. I mean, Job's not a slot. I don't think Ricks has played slot. Ricks plays any slot?
I don't believe so.
I bet Job could, though. I don't know. I just don't think – I mean, if the question is it a good sign for Zach McPherson that all of a sudden in his third year he's now playing in the slot, I just don't think it is.
Okay. I don't think it's a bad sign. I think he'll be here.
Okay.
I'll go on record. I think I'll be here.
Oh, it's on the record?
On record.
Everything you say is on the record. We're doing a podcast.
Yeah, but I want you to remember it.
Okay.
Because I think he will.
You could be right. My hunch is he won't.
Safety is a little tricky because we don't necessarily know who the starters are. But if you say – we'll say list three guys as starters for now: Reed Blankenship, Terrell Edmonds, Sidney Brown. The fact that one of them won't be a starter probably makes you feel a little bit better about the position. And then Kayvon, say what you want about him. I thought he gave him some good snaps last year.
He played well last year. I'm a big Kayvon guy.
How big a Kayvon guy are you?
Pretty big Kayvon guy, yeah.
Has the ship completely sailed on him being a starter in the league?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I'd be surprised if he's not.
You part of the Wallace family?
Kind of.
Yeah.
They've embraced me.
Yeah.
No, he did play well in some difficult circumstances. Like he would come in the game and they would just go after him.
Yeah, I would too.
And he hung in. He had a couple pass breakups in the end zone. So he's in the mix, and Justin Evans is here. As well. They brought him in from the Saints.
Yeah.
Maybe. So there's some bodies. There's certainly Sidney Brown's a guy that we all want to see a lot of. There's just not a lot of proven. I mean, Terrell Edmonds, we kind of know what he is. He's played a lot.
He's like an average starter.
He's an average starter. It's It's a group that
he's like he's kind of like Anthony Harris, different position, like kind of, but like that level of player, I think.
So you think he'll be on the practice squad?
Well, I mean, Anthony Harris was a starter here for a year.
Yeah, he was.
And it wasn't bad. He just wasn't worth doing it again, which I could see that.
Yeah. Yeah, he went from starter to on the street,
mm-hmm.
and then came back, and then changed his mind, then came back.
Yeah,
it was kind of an odd year. Good dude, I like him.
Dude, I will always respect the hell out of him. Remember that he had he was doing a charity thing at like a Dick's Sporting Goods or at a mall, and it was the day he got cut, and he still went and did it.
Yeah,
so much respect for that guy.
Yeah,
there
was. I think I did a story on that.
Yeah,
that was cool.
All right, that's it.
That's the whole podcast.
Well, the last thing was the Eagles have an OTA later this week. Anything you're going to be keeping an eye out for?
Yeah, I guess just
punter battle.
What's that?
Punters.
That battle's over as far as I'm concerned. No, Ty Zettner deserves at least one more day. I want to see the receivers other than the two. I mean, we don't know if Devontae will be back, but kind of don't mind if he's not here because I want to see the other guys, Zacchaeus, Quez, and then all down the line. And speaking of that, well, go ahead. What do you?
No, go ahead. What were you going to say?
I was going to say, does it bother you that Devon Allen's in Europe hurdling and not? I mean, he's not helping himself.
It doesn't bother me. I don't care.
I don't mean does it bother you, but I mean,
should he be here? You're right. He's not helping himself. I don't think he has much of a shot to make the team anyway.
Maybe. I mean, he's a fringe guy. But
I don't think he's as close to the roster as you do.
I don't think he's really particularly close, but I do think that he's got some traits they like.
Yeah. I look at him and think you're really good at hurdling. If you still like doing it, go hurdle.
Well, he gets paid more to be on the practice squad than to hurdle.
Yeah, but he's one of the best in the world at one of these things.
Yeah.
And but
he really, I mean, I understand that. I mean, he loves the game and he wants to give it, a fair try. So would you keep him on the practice squad another year?
Yeah, he has 16 spots.
Yeah.
I'm fine with that.
Okay.
Problem is he's not a young guy. So at a certain point,
28.
We're developing this 30-year-old receiver. Is it worth it?
But he's young in football age. And it's not like he's going to not be in shape. You worry about older guys, he looks pretty fit. He ran 13:12 in Hengalo on Sunday.
Wind aided or
no? It was aided by a 0.2 wind. So anything up to 2.0 is legal. So it was wind legal, and he'll run Friday in Paris.
How do you think we'll run there?
Well, he's run faster each of his 3 races. I think he'll probably run under 13:10. The 5 fastest hurdlers in the world from last year are all in that race. So it'll be good action.
Okay.
I'll text you when they're on the starting
Thanks.
line.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
I'll let you know.
I want to keep an eye. McPherson really is someone I do want to watch because we noticed him playing there and he didn't your brain doesn't catch up enough to really watch him at that point. So I want to watch him at the nickel, and then it's not something other people are going to care about as much. But Kyron Johnson playing off-ball linebacker, that's a position switch that I do not think is a good thing for the player. I think McPherson is. You can argue it either way. Kyron Johnson played a little bit off-ball at Kansas, but he was an edge rusher, and the fact that they're moving him to a different spot probably isn't good. But I want to keep an eye on him too.
Makes sense.
All right.
Anything else?
No, I think we're good.
Okay.
All right. Let's wrap this up. If you enjoy the Eagle Eye podcast, please rate and subscribe wherever you get your pods. If you're watching on YouTube, please click the like button, subscribe there as well. That's it for Reuben. I'm Dave. This has been Eagle Eye. We will talk to you soon.